I think it's interesting. Globally, central banks hold $4 trillion worth of gold, but they only hold $50 billion worth of Bitcoin. But that sounds like it's about to change if we listen to the words of a hedge fund manager just here in a most recent clip that has kind of been breaking the internet, so to say.
Has 11 million years of workers' wages buried in a stone pyramid in Kentucky in gold. That's obviously very antiquated. That's what the pharaohs did 40 centuries ago. I think that'll be transferred into crypto, Bitcoin, over the next.
Let's listen to that number he said at the very beginning of the clip.
US has 11 million years of workers' wages.
The US has 11 million years of workers' wages stored in a pet rock. That's gold. 11 million years. Let's conceptualize that big number and kind of break it down for you guys to show you just how much capital is stored in gold today. So what I want to start by looking at is this is the number of central banks and their gold holdings around the world. This is where the $4 trillion worth of money is divided. America is supposed to be sitting on 8,000 tons of gold. Then we have Germany with 3,000 tons of gold. Italy, 2,000 tons of gold. And of course, we have the wild card, China. China is a country that I've speculated about for a long time, and I genuinely think China is sitting on more than 20,000 metric tons of gold, despite only officially claiming they hold about 2,000 metric tons of gold. Of course, I get to that number by looking at the amount of gold that has been imported and exported in and out of China over the past 25 years. So for those of you who don't know, China actually has export bans on the gold mining companies in the country. They're not allowed to send the gold outside of its borders. They have to sell it to the central bank within the borders of China. So if you look at the amount of gold that's been mined inside China, and if you look at the thousands of metric tons of gold that China has imported over the past 20 years, you can see that many people have made speculations claiming that China is actually sitting on 20,000 metric tons of gold. And what they're going to do is one day announce it to the world. They're going to say, hey, we have 20,000 metric tons of gold. We want to back the Chinese yuan by gold. Okay. This is, of course, speculation for now, but we'll see what happens. So again, let's take a little bit of a peep. This is a cheap little tweet that I popped out this morning. Global government's holdings of Bitcoin is only $50 billion. Global government's holding of gold, $4 trillion. Bitcoin is unpriced by a factor of 100x. There's a 100x gap between what central banks and governments hold in Bitcoin versus gold. Now, I want to make the case that this gap is going to close. We can see here American ownership. So the little guy like you and I, we already hold more Bitcoin than gold, so to say. 49 million Americans own Bitcoin and only 36 million of them own gold. This came from a brand new report that I might break down for you guys later in the week. I think it's an interesting one, that is for sure. But let's take a little bit of a peep over here at how much Bitcoin is held by governments. So again, I love this website. We can see 110 public companies own Bitcoin. Now let's take a peep at how many governments. So 12 governments hold Bitcoin. Now again, earlier in the video, we were talking about how many governments hold strategy. So we have 12 governments holding Bitcoin, but let's not forget this quote from the beginning of today's video. In the first quarter, 12 government entities increased their exposure to MicroStrategy. So again, when you start adding these numbers up, things start looking all the more interesting. So we can see governments are holding 527,000 Bitcoin collectively as of the 24th of May, 2025. Let's scroll down and take a little bit of a look at the biggest government holdings. So we can see America is still supposed to be holding 198,000 Bitcoin, assuming that the audit comes in and they do hold all the Bitcoin they claim to hold. China holding 190,000 Bitcoin. The UK, 60,000 Bitcoin. And then this is a little bit interesting, very interesting, don't you think? Ukraine holds 46,000 Bitcoin. Just a little bit of an interesting, fun fact about the small country of Ukraine that might explain some of the things happening around the world. But let's move on. North Korea holds 13,000 Bitcoin, and Bhutan 11,000, and El Salvador 6,000. So in total, this website here is telling us that in total, governments are holding 1.6 million Bitcoin. Is that correct? Or is that, let's fact check myself. We got the raw numbers here. That seems high. Okay, I think that number's wrong. The subtotal is 527,000. So that is the number. It's about $50 billion worth of Bitcoin. That's how much governments hold and government entities. I wonder if a pension fund counts as a government entity, because we do know that all of these pension funds, these sovereign wealth funds, they're buying Bitcoin, but they're also buying exposure to Bitcoin in any way, shape, or form that they can, whether that be IBIT, like BlackRock's Bitcoin ETF, or whether that be MicroStrategy shares, or whether that be shares of the brand new companies that are coming out and announcing Bitcoin treasury strategies. A lot of people do still believe in gold more than Bitcoin. I would be interested, Nabil, why do you believe in gold more than Bitcoin? I've got some interesting comments in the chat that I do think is interesting. The reason why I think a lot of these central banks are going to be forced to move to Bitcoin over gold is purely because with Bitcoin, you can audit the Bitcoin that you hold. You don't need to trust the American Fort Knox to say, look, we've got the gold. Trust me, bro, we have it. This is the beautiful thing about Bitcoin. You can verify on the Bitcoin blockchain your addresses every 10 minutes, and you can know with certainty and 100% faith that the Bitcoin that you hold is yours and it's there on the blockchain. I think this is a massive revolution, so to say, a huge technological innovation when it comes to Bitcoin. And this is just something that gold just simply cannot do. So I hate to say it, but I do kind of think that gold will be obsoleted in a pretty big way moving forward here in the 2020s decade. Who knows how long this obsolescence is going to take? Maybe it happens quicker. Maybe it happens in 10 years. Maybe it happens in 20 years. Maybe it happens in 30 years. I just don't think it's going to take that long. I think it's going to happen much quicker than most people think. I'm more on the accelerationists camp, so to say. I kind of think a lot of this is going to work itself out in the next 5 or 10 years. And that's purely because Bitcoin is a monetary network. And right now, I think we're seeing the biggest players in the space who understand that Bitcoin is a monetary network accumulate Bitcoin in size. Think about it. We got Larry Fink. We got the world's largest pension funds. We got Saudi Arabia's central bank literally printing money to buy 25,000 shares of MicroStrategy. All of the biggest money managers in the world are coming to the realization that they need Bitcoin and they need Bitcoin exposure in any way, shape, or form. And I do just think these things are going to accelerate. Again, 55% of global hedge funds own Bitcoin. That's massive. So many people are not aware that that $5 trillion market is so in deep in Bitcoin as they are today. It's really crazy about it. So I do just think it's only a matter of time before this gap between gold and Bitcoin closes. Again, if you want to front run this gap and actually buy all your Bitcoin now while you can, with the price being about $100,000, I encourage you guys to check out the Bitcoin Well. I think they're the best Bitcoin exchange in the space. And I really like the Bitcoin Well because when you sign up with the Bitcoin Well, you can see this is the dashboard. This is what you're going to see. And they're going to let you use these tokens in the top right-hand corner of the screen to play the Bitcoin wishing well. You can throw your tokens into the wishing well and you can go into the draw to win 1% of a Bitcoin. So whoever can scan that QR code at home the quickest is going to win 388 sats. That's right, it's free Bitcoin. And again, you get the free Bitcoin potentially every single time you buy Bitcoin on the Bitcoin wishing well. So there is a link down below for you guys to check out the Bitcoin Well. Highly recommend you check them out. They also have a service for high net worth institutional Bitcoin buyers. Again, Bitcoin Well is for everyone. They're for retail guys wanting to set up a recurring DCA, or you can buy large amounts of Bitcoin with their Bitcoin Well Infinity program. So as you can see here, if you want to buy Bitcoin over the counter with very tight spreads and low fees, you can book a call with a specialist here. So this here is the calendar of a Bitcoin Well Infinity employee who's going to jump on a video call with you and walk you through the Bitcoin buying process. Again, I get it. Bitcoin's complicated. Some people need their handheld buying their Bitcoin, and I 100% recognize that. And again, here's a solution for you guys if you do want to have your hand held, so to say, through that buying journey. But again, it doesn't matter who you are. Once you've bought your Bitcoin, get it off the exchanges, put it into your own hardware wallet. And when you do that, always make sure you back up your Bitcoin correct. Do not write down your Bitcoin 12 or 24 words on paper. Paper is flimsy. Paper will burn in a fire. You will lose your Bitcoin 12 or 24 words if it's on paper in a flood or a hurricane or under most circumstances. This is why I always encourage you guys to check out the titanium plates from Stampseed. Again, as you can see, these things are crush proof. These things are incredible. I highly recommend you check out what they are making. These are titanium plates. These are not stainless steel. These are titanium. This should be the industry standard when it comes to Bitcoin. There is no second best when it comes to a metal backup storage for your Bitcoin. So again, titanium, superior to stainless steel. And again, you guys can get 15% off anything you want to buy from Stampseed with that promo code Luke15. So all of that is linked down below in the chat. Now let's talk a little bit more about this gold versus Bitcoin crisis unfolding. Actually, here's another crisis. Let's answer John Vito's question. So I'm jet lagged right now. I'm actually in Europe. So I've been living in Latin America for 4 years, and right now I'm chronically de-slept and just arrived in Europe here yesterday. So the eyes are a little bit red. I'm adjusting to the time zone changes. I promise I'm not chewing on the devil's lettuce, so to say. That's not why my eyes are red. Who knows? If they don't clear up in a week, maybe you'd be able to spot a liar on the live stream. But yes, I apologize for the bloodshot eyes. Recovering a little bit from that jet lag. And always recovering from the all right, let's move on here. Now, I think this gap is going to close quicker than most people think. Let me show you a chart that I think helps to explain why we're going to see this gap close much quicker than most people think. It's probably my favorite chart in the Bitcoin space. Okay, here we go. This is the magic right here. So this right here is showing us that I think there's going to be two different adoption curves in Bitcoin. I think we're going to see a medium of exchange adoption curve and a store of value adoption curve. So what do I mean? Well, let me help paint a picture here. So I think that the store of value use case for Bitcoin is going to be adopted first and more rapidly. And that's simply because the big money understand Bitcoin and they're going to adopt it before the rest of the world. Okay. This is why I think we're going to see an exponential increase in those using Bitcoin as a store of value. And in particular, those who control the majority of that $900 trillion of global wealth. These guys are going to naturally adopt Bitcoin quicker than your Uncle Karen, or sorry, your Uncle Bob, or your Auntie Karen or Kate is going to adopt Bitcoin as a medium of exchange, which is the green adoption curve. And this is why I'm super interested in watching this gap close between the $4 trillion of central banks holding gold versus the $50 billion of Bitcoin they hold. There's a massive gap, and I think this imbalance is going to be closed much quicker than most people think. That's just what is going to happen. I don't see any way that this doesn't accelerate in a pretty rapid way. I just think, this is what's going to happen. We're going to see this gap close. Who knows? Like I said earlier in the show, whether this takes a year, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. Again, we shall find out. I think it's going to be interesting to watch this unfold because, again, we could see some pretty interesting things occur along the way. But with all that said, guys, thank you so much for 712 of you guys tuning in between Twitter and YouTube. If you do want a little bit more Bitcoin signal and Bitcoin content, got a little bit of an interesting announcement coming up. Got a brand new interview with British Hodl and Peter Dunworth, two most bullish people in Bitcoin, coming in the not too distant future. To prepare you guys for that interview, I released a previous interview that I did with Peter on the channel. You can find that on the channel, posted it yesterday to kind of prepare you guys for the bullishness that you're going to see in this brand new interview. So again, after this stream's finished, I'm going to pop a link to that interview with Peter that I dropped yesterday up on screen somewhere around there. If you click it, you can go watch that interview and get ready for what I think could be the most bullish three-way interview podcast in the Bitcoin space that's going to be dropping in the next couple of days. So with all that said, thank you so much to everyone who tuned in. I will see you guys in the next